Hi guys, thanks for checking out my YouTube channel. I'm glad to see you here, and over the next couple of months I'll be posting a lot of, experiments, tests, evaluations and prototypes and tutorials, generally speaking, for beginners, and some more advanced uses as well of the n8n, the self-hosted instance of mine. So I'm experimenting a lot, and it would be great for me to share it. And over the next week or so, we will be building a really simple basic logger that has some LLM analysis in place, and it also posts the errors as they come to Telegram and the spreadsheet or the Airtable. We'll see. And basically this will be part of the 2-3 episodes on the standard logging functionality, standard error reporting workflow, and the standard triggers in n8n. So this is more on the basic side of the n8n management and maintenance. But obviously we have to start somewhere, and I see that in many tutorials, and this is tracing, logging, and error handling, and making sure it is scalable and kind of robust, the system in place. No one really pays attention to this, probably because it's not exactly sexy, and it takes a lot of time to actually get this right, because you have to analyze a lot of errors and you have to implement a lot of changes on the go. It's not something that you just implement and it stays in place for months and years. So today we will implement the first iteration, the first simple version of the maintenance simple error reporting mechanism in n8n. So they're really simple. Well, this is the version that we will strive for, and this will be probably lesson 2 or our tutorial number 3. Everything will be in the same playlist, hopefully. So the way it works is basically we have this trigger that's it's whenever we have an error in any of the live workflows, this trigger will be called. We will check if this error already occurred before. If so, we would pull certain information about this error from the past, including the LLM summary and a set of recommendations how to fix it, so we don't have to call the LLM one more time. And if it was there in this sheet here, it is basically the true condition, and we would just create a new entry with the new error, new timestamp, but with an old summary from the LLM, so we don't need to call the LLM twice for the very same error, just trying to explain the very same error a couple of times again. And then we would just get the Telegram message just to see that actually the error, something happened, right? And if this error didn't occur before, we would just we would set those fields from the trigger as variables. We would run them through the AI agent with some capacity to actually call them up and research if it can't explain the stack trace in the error, and then it would just append this information to our spreadsheet. We would handle this as this tiny little database of errors for us. Just to keep the track of those with timestamps, with details, just to analyze it afterwards. You can potentially even connect the Google spreadsheets to Looker Studio, for example, via the native integration, and build dashboards with different types and timestamps. Build some line charts to see how many of those errors you are getting on a weekly basis and this kind of things. Actually, this will be one of the tutorials, let's put it this way. And obviously also in this case, in this flow, we are getting the very same Telegram message with a set of instructions there. So this is our target workflow, let's put it this way. We won't really focus on anything LLM today. Not like there will be an element in the workflow, but obviously it won't be the AI agent. And actually this is an overkill in this case to use the AI agent. To be frank, we just need to call the LLM and make it explain the variables we would supply related to our error, and that's it. So that's something that we are going to build today, and over the next couple of months I hope to post more of my experiments with different workflows, be the Langsmith for tracing, and workflows here, and some LLMs checking the errors, maybe some backups, and yeah, there's a lot of ideas there. So stay tuned. This is my first video on this channel, so yeah, just don't be brutal. Give me some space there. Okay, so let's go to that folder that I prepared for that YouTube channel of ours, and we have the first folder, and let's just build something really simple, and I'll explain how it is supposed to be working afterwards. So the error trigger is there, and we can even fetch the test event. Obviously it won't have a lot of details, so the workflow, the ID, the name of that workflow, and some information on this exact execution now, what actually kind of failed, right? So, and this is green, so that's what we are going to do, and then we have to do something about this data. We have two ways. In the very beginning, especially if people are just starting out with the n8n and they can't really spot all the errors and they don't have the time to waste on the executions and to check the executions tab here with everything that went wrong, right? There has to be an external way to store all those errors, as we said, and in our case that would be Google Spreadsheet. But sometimes it makes sense also to let the LLM explain what the error is about, and in this first iteration of this tutorial, let's put it this way, we will be calling the LLM every time we get an error to explain what it is. It doesn't make any sense really, because there will be repeating errors and you have to store those errors with the LLM explanation so you don't have to waste the tokens in the future again, right? At this point of time, we just won't do it. We will just, call the LLM every time and waste the tokens every time we have this error. And yeah, not ideal. Just stay with me there. In the second video, we will expand on this. So yeah, let's call the AI there. And I'll make my face smaller, and I'll just move myself here. And we have the basic LLM chain there. And yeah, we don't need that. We need just a couple of prompts there. We need the required specific format in the JSON format. And we have the fallback model there, and I'll explain in a while what it does. And we also need a system prompt there. Okay, so what do we need here, right? So it is connected to the error trigger. So you can imagine that this flow, this workflow, was suddenly called by some other workflow that failed. So it is like a last call, last SOS call to inform us that something went wrong, right? So imagine this information was supplied here. So we want to analyze the data there, and we need to store this data, explain it with the LLM, and then it would be great to inform us on Telegram as well, right? For example. Okay, now what do we do there? I will just copy the instructions from my LLM agent. I don't really need to write it all again from scratch. And again, as I said in that second, the example scenario, actually the AI agent is kind of an overkill. We don't really need an AI agent there with memory and so on. We just need a simple LLM call that explains the very basic things for us. So this is the prompt there. So we have the role. It pretends to be an expert in n8n. We have, and also pretends to know JavaScript and some remaining things. And it will get certain details from us. So for fields, let's remember them. It will summarize them, try to find some kind of a explanation there. It won't use emojis and so on, and it will pretend to be Emmett Brown from the Back to the Future movie. I just love this movie. And that's it, a couple of tools. We probably don't need this part at all in this case, because it's not an AI agent, doesn't have the SEP functionality. In this case, we won't enable it as a tool. Okay, so that's it. Did I miss anything? No, probably not. Okay, look at the following builds. Okay, good. So this is our system prompt. And we have to have the user prompt as well, obviously with all those supply details. And I'll just copy it over from my original flow there. So as you can see, I'm even not setting those as variables. I'm just, live pasting them the moment it arrives. Probably not a good practice, but it will work for now. The class node executed, that's the one here. Okay, no. Okay, and stack trace. At this point of time, stack trace is kind of empty, but usually it is just full of characters. It is like a really long stack trace. Everything that went wrong with the in the system, you know, with the versions, errors, and calls to different libraries and so on, so packages, you will see a lot there. So this piece is actually quite long. Sometimes even I went over the context window there, so I had to limit this and even use this like a slice in JavaScript just to limit the space that will be sent in the prompt. We just don't need it really that much. Some of the details, especially the error message, is more than enough sometimes. Okay, so that's the final version. Obviously, we will just look up the errors that I recently got, like the fresh ones, and you'll see there's much more information in there. Okay, so we have this LLM calls. What else? We need the models, right? So now I'm really into the openrouter. Because we can test out very different models. I really like Qwen, and these days I'm also testing the Xiaomi Flash, which is, well, they claim it to be free, which is kind of funny, but it is actually really cheap. Sometimes it is like 1 cent or something. This is actually that's the one here. As last call, you see there's many tokens input, 14 output. I'm using this for the keyword generation for different content pieces from my RSS feeds, and that was the cost, right, for every call. So I'm just, you know, I just make sure not to use it for anything production, because A, that's Xiaomi, you know why, and B, it is probably not the best model out there, but it is dirt cheap. So for really stupid things, you can use it, and just don't leak any data there. Okay, so, and we'll test out this model. What I really like to do, I usually use some kind of a fallback model, something more reliable, just in case, because I want this to run. So remember, this is the error logging piece. This one is really important. Let's make sure that actually, you know, it runs. Hopefully always, but it will fail sometimes as well, and we'll just cover this later on as well. And the output parser is kind of simple. We just need the JSON there. Probably also an overkill, but okay. Grok is out of credits. Summary. Okay. Let's just run it for this example. I just won't have a lot of information, obviously, but this will be a really cheap call. And you have to understand that those cheaper things, and actually a lot of Chinese models like Qwen, you know, and this one, the Xiaomi now, they take a lot of time. They take a lot of time to process those tokens, but they are really cheap. So that's trade-off there. If you need a really prompt response, I wouldn't go with this. I would use the Gemini probably. Yeah, okay, so it succeeded. Let's check what the output was. Okay, obviously it's kind of stupid, because, you know, it knows it is a, you know, really, it's an example. Okay, what do we do about it? So we have two things there. First of all, we need to build some kind of a storage for those errors for the future. We will just append row in my Google spreadsheet. And that's an A, so I already created the spreadsheet, because frankly speaking, I started recording this video for the second time because I got a message from my client on Upwork, and, you know, his face was there, so I had to remove it, and I had to start from scratch. So I have the basic logger there, and the sheet is tutorial, I think. Yeah, that was. And I never use the automated thing, the automated mapping. I just map it manually usually, and it retrieves the columns that I have there. Some people would obviously set those as variables. I'm not doing this. I'm just taking the fields from different nodes, the outputs from different nodes. In this case, not a big issue, but later on we have to make it tidy. and we have to adhere to some rules and standards. So we have the summary there. We have a timestamp when this thing was. Actually, I'll move myself here, and we have the now. The timestamp is here, and then we have the stack trace. Where was the stack trace? The execution here. Last note executed. I don't see it as a field. Weird. Okay, let's just assume it is there. I just have to add it in the spreadsheet later on, but this is the message. This will be the where's the name of that workflow? That's the name there. And the stack trace is there. Usually, as I said, stack trace is actually quite long, so sometimes you just even need to do something really stupid about it just to make sure it fits. So it is like that. Maybe, you know, to limit the number of characters, just to slice it, not to allow a really big payload, a really long number of characters to go there. Actually, sometimes it is above those 400 characters, and you know, you have to limit, especially with some models, that you don't send too much information. And having said that, those calls, they will cost you money, and you have to make sure that you don't waste your tokens on the errors that you already encountered before. But we'll get busy with this in our next video. In this one, yeah, let's say we just have this. We have the minimize API calls because this API, well, this spreadsheet is kind of really simple, right? It's just header, 5 fields there. It's empty. It starts from the second row. So yeah, nothing. There's no locations on the sheet, so the data starts from A, from the very beginning, right? And no customization of the cells and so on. So it's fine. And let's have the retries here. So 3 retries here, and maybe 3 retries here as well, just to make sure it always runs. And yeah, let's just record this information. Should be there. I decided to run it all over again because I didn't pin the data. Yeah, it's Xiaomi model, but at the very least it is cheap. It is extremely cheap. 0. Okay. Still running. So as I said before, right, just take the model that satisfies your needs in terms of you know, the latency, the time of response. Okay, we have the information recorded, so let's check it out. For some reason yeah, it has sent it 3 times. It's probably weird, probably something with the retries. Not sure why they did this way. Shouldn't be the case, because it was one item, but for some reason it was sent 3 times, which is extremely weird. You see, again, debugging will take you time. Not sure, shouldn't be like that. There is something wrong here. Okay, again, the information is there, right? So now, and this will be one of the future videos, we will build a cheap, actually free, dashboard that will be based on this spreadsheet, and we will have some kind of a line chart and pie chart that will show us the statistics for all the errors that we are encountering usually. Yeah, maybe with some additional details there as well on the errors, so we can see the statistics over time, and maybe some additional information that we'll pull from the openrouter, for example. Yeah, I will see about that. It would be really great to have this information. Okay, and then as a last note, maybe not as after the spreadsheets, but here, because we don't want the Telegram to be reliant. What was it? Yeah, it was this send a text message, yes. So we don't want it to follow the spreadsheets, send a text message, that was it. Yes, so the chat, this will be chat with my users, so one of my accounts, please don't spam me. And obviously this is one of the bots. And I will show you now how to create this token, how to get this token for a bot, to make this bot message you. At this point of time, chat ID is my ID, actually the same. So if you have the conversation between you and the bot, the chat, the ID of that conversation is the same one as your ID, the ID of your user. And this is, you have some kind of details here. You can have the attribution. I don't really need that. And what happens next, right? So we just go here, have this expression, and in my case, I think I will just insert this here. I don't need all of that because, or actually we can post all of those variables as well. So workflow, what was the workflow name? One name here, the ID. So in our case, it is pretty simple and useless, but in the future, all those details are really crucial, especially, for example, you don't really know what happened there, so you have some kind of a freelancer coming in, so you have the data to supply to him to explain what went wrong there. When is always important, and also the URL we have, the timestamp of the run of the execution should be there. Wait, I have this weird widget that prevents me from clicking there. The loom. Okay, and I have now, which is technically not exactly correct because this is the now, but the error happened sometime earlier before we called the LLM. Okay. Is it? Yeah, I think that's now, yes. And the ID, in this case that would be the ID over there. This will be the execution ID. No, that was the execution ID. This is the workflow ID, yes. Okay, workflow ID, right. And the summary from the LLM, we'll just take it here, and I'll just insert it here. Okay, voila. And that would be the placeholder. As you can see, I have those ticks here. This will format this information in a weird way as well, and I think we don't have the trace here. Probably not a really good idea, and I'll explain you why. Because it's just a really long message. So sometimes even Telegram tells you that can't really handle this kind of such a long string of information. Where's this stack trace? Wait. Oh, here. Right. Yes. Okay. In this case, it is pretty useless, right? But sometimes this field is extremely long, so you have to do something about it. Maybe you don't need it even as well, and you would just do something stupid like that, and it will just limit space. The number of characters that's being posted there is just 500, right? And you will just use this kind of thing, and by the end of this video I will show you how to get this token on Telegram, and that's it. What else? And how to find out the chat ID, probably also a crucial piece of information, but let's test it out. Ta-da! Yes, and here we have this piece of information. So that's how it looks, and those ticks that I've told you about, they ensure that my message is sitting inside this kind of a weird card-like component here on Telegram, right? And this is my bot here. Please don't record it, and it won't respond to you because it has some security in place. So it always requires me to chat with this bot for it to generate anything for me. Again, as we said, this is a total waste of tokens, and you have to prevent this from happening. So every time you encounter an error, you have to make sure that this workflow with this node didn't have this error before. If it did, no need to call the LLM. And maybe you can even do it for some workflows, and for some you won't do it. And I will show you how to enable this workflow now. So first of all, yes, we save this all somehow. This will be my workflow 6. And we have to publish it because previously on the first version of the n8n, this workflow, this error workflow, it didn't have to be active, right? It could be deactivated because it was being called usually by other workflows, so it could be deactivated. But now it actually has to be active, so you have to publish it. And I just published this. So now, how do you direct those errors, those failed workflow execution logs, to this exact workflow 6? Okay. So let's just go to my n8n and find some kind of some more advanced workflow. So let's just go to this one and let's just take my ClickUp, the one I played with today. So let's just take this one. Okay. And to make sure that every time this workflow fails, it is an agentic workflow, right? So there's an AI agent here. And recently it's been acting strangely, so I'm trying to fix it because it has some memory problems with the vector store on Pinecone. In any case, it fails a lot, especially today. Plus also it has some kind of an infinity loop issue. So it is crucial that whenever you have a couple of those different workflows for error collection, because you have one for clients, one for your pet projects, one for something else. So you have a couple of those. So every time you want to folder and organize those errors into different groups, for example. So what you would do, you just go here and in the settings of the workflow that you want to get notified about, you check the settings, and here you have error workflow to notify when this one errors, so fails, right? So it actually uses that trigger that we built as the starting component of that error workflow in my workflow 6, right? So you just have to find it here. So my workflow 6, you just save it, and then every time this workflow fails, we would be getting calls to that trigger here, and it would be processed by the LLM, and it would be posted somewhere there. Again, there's a lot of weird things here that we are doing. It is pretty basic, but you won't be calling the LLM all the time. It's just a waste of tokens and time. A couple of things to mention here. So, attention please. First things first. In order for us to get those errors, point 1, we need that target workflow to have this in the settings, right? This selected, so it knows where to report those errors. That's an A. B, we have to have this workflow enabled, obviously, because you wouldn't see it in the drop-down. That's a B. C, if this workflow is kind of weirdly built, it's not robust, and you have some really weird calls that are running in parallel, and basically in this case, for example, with the LLM fails, right? So the error won't be reported. So probably you could have this piece here sitting in the middle. So you always get the data, and only then you append the data about the LLM summarization of that error. There's a lot of things there that you can implement. And obviously it would be great to record it always and without relying on the LLM or anything else, right? So first you save the data to store it in your logs, and then you can also enrich it somehow, enhance it, use the Tavily search, for example, to look up the reason behind that error. This is a big field of actions that you can focus on. But yeah, this initial piece in our second build, in our second video, we'll start with appending this, because we still get the error. We have to record it no matter what happens next, right? But in my case, for example, this is a good occasion for me to explain that if this workflow fails, the one that collects those errors from other workflows, you won't get any message, you won't get any traces, nothing. So you have to control and always check it on a daily basis, every other day, for example, in the very beginning until you realized, that this error handling workflow is actually works and it is reliable. You have to check the executions in here, right? You have to go here and see, the results, especially the red ones. That's a really important point there. So that was a C, right? Now, I want to show you how to get the credentials for the spreadsheets. You can find it on the web, on YouTube's many tutorials like that. With Telegram, it is pretty simple. You just have to find it's a Telegram bot as well, and the name was, what was it? Sorry guys, I can't really find it. Where was it? Okay, yeah, I'm blind. That's bot fuzzer, right? And you have the open here. No, not the open. It was the start, I think. Yeah, that was a new bot. And you click here, and you have to provide a name and an ID. And yeah, I've been testing with different bots here, and as you can see, there is a token here, so I have to change those connections now so that you can't really use it. Yeah, but there is no way around this. I will have to check and create a token. So let's create some kind of a test bot now. So tutorial 1 Telegram 701. Yes, and you have to also use something with this ending bot, otherwise you won't get the token. Okay, and I got my token. That's the token, and you just go here and where you have the credentials, and you have the create new credential, and you just put the access token in there. And that's pretty much it at this point of time. I will have to swap one for that bot of mine, and I will have to delete a couple of bots here. So again, that wasn't, I think the menu was here. My bots, yes, a couple of those, and I will have to remove them, some of them. Yeah. Okay, and that's the one we have here, and I will just remove it now. Yes, delete. Yes, I'm 100% sure, and that's how you delete a bot. And that's it, I think. If you want to have to know your chat ID, give me a second, I'll just pause this video for a second. Okay, so what you have to do, you just have to find something like this, Telegram bot row. Row data bot, I think that, yeah, that's the username. And you have to either message it, or you have to forward the message to it, and then you'll get the data about the chat. And this is the chat of yours. In this case, it's mine, right? So this is the chat, and as you can see, the very same ID is actually the not the forwarded. And where was it? Okay, from, yeah, that's the very same ID. You see, that's the user ID and the chat ID. So between the bot and the original user, which is me, the ID is the same of the chat, right? But there was also an ID from someone else, the bot fuzzer in this case, the ID that's being used there. And yeah, some text there and so on. It's just basically how you obtain this chat ID to have in Telegram in here, so you know where to post this message, right? And yes, I think that's it. So at this point of time, that would be it. And that's how you get your data. With Telegram, again, it is much faster and much easier to obtain the details, but you have to make sure that this workflow runs always. And it is a much better solution to just log everything, spreadsheets on the Airtable in the very beginning once that trigger fires, right? There are many operations, yes, but they are not crucial to the operation. Yeah, the summary is fine, is useful, but it is much better to have the log first. So yeah, next time in our second video, we will start from there, and we will expand it with a couple of functionalities, maybe along with the Looker Studio dashboard. Yes, that's a good idea, I think. Anyway, thank you for your time. See you soon. Bye.